Okay, what's new? What's been going on? Any bombshells in JL283? Uh, there's been some interesting developments, but I wouldn't say there was a bombshell. But three different developments increased the diversity of ancient lineages found in the Balkans and the Adriatic coast of Italy. So while these finds are interesting, I wouldn't call them bombshells because it's not showing anything that we didn't already think was probably the most likely explanation. Like it's validating things that a lot of us expected to be true. Okay, maybe I understated things a little bit. There was a big development. A sample from Serbia has split JCTS 6190. This is the lineage that was found in an ancient Etruscan. And prior to this sample from Serbia, by the way, who splits this lineage, there weren't any samples from the Balkans in positive for this lineage. So it's this is like this sample's filling in the blank that we thought was probably true, that probably this lineage, like all of its siblings and distant cousins, is probably from the Balkans if you go further back in time, because the oldest samples are from there in at least the one branch of JL283 that we're looking at here, Z2507. So that's a big deal. Next, a sample from Bari, Italy, splits rare child of JZ38240, known as J2b-L283. Okay, this is a very rare lineage. The other guys in this lineage there's a Norwegian, there's a North Macedonian, there's a Brazilian, and a sample from Sardinia. So this guy split that lineage. He's only positive for a few of their SNPs, and he's right from the Adriatic coast. So this is also an interesting development. There are also a few other guys confirmed or predicted in this lineage, but they're from like England or Ireland and not really useful for figuring out the origin. Now, the icing on the cake. Ancient samples from mainland Italy have been found within an Illyrian colony context of the Daonians in northern Apulia near Foggia, have been found positive for J2b-L283. So it's not a bombshell because we already believed that the Proto-Illyrians from the Western Balkans were positive for our haplogroup. But this is the first time that an ancient sample from Italy, from areas that archaeologists believe were colonized by the Iapygians, is one name for these Illyrian colonists. This is the first time that an ancient sample, and not just one, but multiple, have been found and confirmed that our haplogroup was in mainland Italy in an Illyrian colonization context. So it's breaking, but it's not like a bombshell, but it's cool. I have to correct myself. I said that I did not mean that all Proto-Illyrians would have been J2b-L283. What I meant to say was we seem really likely to have been among the Proto-Illyrians, that some Proto-Illyrians would have been J2b-L283. I didn't mean to say all of them, if that might have sounded like it. Now, cheers to you for watching this video. If you're JL283, my relative, then hope to meet you someday. Cheers to us, cheers to our research. Gagvimarjos. In Georgian, that means cheers to us. I'm really thankful for all the interesting people that I've been able to meet because they are interested in my haplogroup, our haplogroup, the research of our haplogroup, the ancient origins of our haplogroup, in the Facebook group. Uh, I love to. I mean, who doesn't like talking to people about the stuff that they're mutually interested in? If you're interested to see what we're talking about, oh, this isn't like the conclusion. I'm going to talk a little bit more, but we got a Facebook page, J2b-L283, and okay, people have issues with Facebook. I understand that, but if you use Facebook, it's an easy way to see what's going on, and just because of the content that we're creating, people are just who have gotten a result of JL283 from 23andMe or just whatever ancestry or autosomal testing. They've Googled this and they found some videos that I've made or web pages, and then they join the Facebook group, and then some of them do a test that advances the research further, and they wouldn't have done that if this content if I hadn't created this content. What I'm saying is Facebook is useful. It's lots of people use it. We have good people on our Facebook group. We're not like some group where people are flaming each other. Okay. Um, okay, there's a guy who I don't agree with all of his opinions, but anyway, we get along, and we're advancing research. Okay, another recent result is there was an Armenian that I predicted would be JYP91. This is one of the rare lineages of JL283 that is very old. Its sibling is Z600. Z600, almost like 95% or more of everyone in our haplogroup is Z600. YP91 is much rarer, and because there was an Armenian that looked like and is confirmed in this lineage, I thought let's figure out exactly which subclade of YP91 he is, because if he splits YP91, or if he's basal JYP91, then we look at him being from Armenia and basal JYP91, and then we look at the JL283 basal guy who is Armenian, and then we have some circumstantial data that would say, maybe the origin of our haplogroup has something to do with Armenians. But turns out from the SNP testing, he's not basal JYP91. Okay, what that means is he is from a lineage, he's from a grandchild, great-grandchild lineage of JYP91 that formed in the Iron Age. And the lineage that he's positive for, in all likelihood, was from Europe. So he's a guy that became an Armenian, and his ancestor was probably living in Europe. So in the context of research into our origins and what this means, a theory I had considered, and I still think it's worth pursuing, is that the basal Armenian guy, the basal JL283 Armenian guy, could be indicative of a deeper origin of our haplogroup in or near Armenia. But it's not corroborated by this recent Armenian guy from JYP91, because he appears to be a more recent migrant from Europe to Armenia. I still think it's worth figuring out the specific subclade of any Armenian in JL283, because this theory could still turn out to be true. And if it isn't, at least we may learn more about the migrations of our haplogroup to Armenia that are possibly as old as the Iron Age. What's the status of tests that I bought with your donations for the JL283 Research Fund? What's the status? What's on the horizon? Okay, I I bought WGS, whole genome sequence test at YSeq for the Circassian that is JL283. We're waiting on the result. Other result, a WGS 400 I recently ordered for a German speaker. I mean, a man who traces descent to a German speaker of uncertain geographic origin, who is Basil JYP91. Okay, this is what I was just talking about with this Armenian guy. The Armenian guy was not Basil JYP91. Basil means you are positive for that branch and confirm negative for all the child branches. Okay, just in case you didn't know what that means. So that's why after the Armenian guy's test showed he's not basal, he's from a younger branch, I don't want to spend my limited research funds on doing a WGS 400. It's like a big Y, but it's on all of your DNA, whole genome sequence. I don't want to spend it on the Armenian guy because doesn't look indicative of our origin. But this this guy who descends from German speakers, ancestral surname Riesmann, but we don't know where he's from in Germany or Switzerland or Austria well, that's it basically, who speak German. I ordered a test for them. They co-paid for part of it, so I didn't have to use so much of the money from the research fund. But I had to pay for their test because they were Basil JYP91. Okay, it will be interesting to see if he shares any mutations with the Biebers of Alsace, France, now France, or if they will both end up being independent basal lineages of JYP91. Okay, if you don't know what all these codes mean, JYP91, don't worry about it. It's the reason why I'm testing this guy is he could illuminate our ancient migration path to Europe. Or if not our ancient migration path to Europe, at least where the most recent common ancestor of JL283 was living approximately 5,300 years ago. There's a guy from Kefalonia who, based on his 12 STRs, seems extremely likely to be our haplogroup JL283. And because of his geography being he's in the Ionian Sea. This is one of the Ionian Islands. There's no historical attestation of Illyrian groups on this island, but the island a little bit further north, or substantially further north, Corcura, does have two historically known instances of Illyrians having colonized it. According to Strabo, Liburnians populated Corcura until shortly after the Corinthians settled the island, 730 BC. The Liburnians lived between the rivers Arsia and Titius in what is now Croatia. Several centuries later, the Ardii, I pronounced it wrong, Ardii, I pronounce according to classical Latin, a maritime power that lived in what is now Albania, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Bosnia, briefly occupied Corcura. So it's interesting to figure out what specific lineage this guy will be, because there is the potential for some kind of Iron Age Illyrian migration, or it could have been earlier or it could have been later. We will see after we get the test result. Another guy I'd like to test is a Bulgarian who traces his male line to a village at the foot of the Vratsa Balkan Mountains in northwest Bulgaria. He doesn't appear to be basal JL283, but he's not closely related to anyone that we can tell. So I think it may be more cost effective to just try to upgrade him directly to WGS 400 rather than do a lot of SNP testing. So if you donate to the JL283 Research Fund, Your donation will first be used to offset this SNP panel test that I bought for the Kefalonian. And then after that's been covered, then it will go towards co-paying for this WGS 400 from this Bulgarian. I've been focusing a lot over the last year on the testing people that would give us some insight into the origins of J2b-L283 in the Bronze Age. But I also have a separate research fund that is for a prolific lineage of ours called JZ631 that is also my lineage. And if you want to donate to advance the research into the Iron Age origins of your lineage, if you're Z631, you could help fund a guy I want to test who traces his descent to a man who lived in 1615 in Ligoina, Slovenia. He's not Z1043, but he is Z631.